Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for today's webinar on how to get started with your Top Producer X. I'm your host, Dan Salcedo, and I'm just going to get the Zoom settings here all set up for us, and we'll get started here soon. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me, David, Linda, Tom. If you guys can do me a favor and just let me know in the chat that you guys can hear me or not. Just want to make sure before we get started here. Perfect. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, David. All right, so let's get started here. I'm your host again, Daniel Salcedo. On chat, that's going to help us out for any questions that you guys have while we go through the show is Marvin LaRosa. He is our research specialist, basically handles all our most difficult questions or technical issues that happen through support. So we're all in good hands. He's been with us for years. And I'm the training specialist here in customer care, making sure that we're giving you 5-star customer service. I've been with the company for over 12 years, so I've been happily helping you guys out over the phone, over email, over chat, and hopefully that experience benefits me while benefits us while we go through the webinar, making sure that you get off on the right foot with your brand new Top Producer X CRM. This webinar is catered to our new customers. If you are one of our longtime 8i loyal customers, I appreciate you guys joining as well. I will have to ask your patience. This one is more catered towards our new customers. If you're looking for more on how to switch from your 8i to Top Producer X, we do have a bi-weekly meeting every month. So the last one we just did was on the 16th. And if you go to our youtube.com/Top Producer Software YouTube channel, you'll see the recording from Friday, and then the next one will be on the 30th. So thank you guys for joining. Yeah, David, no problem. You are still definitely welcome to stay. Just keep that in mind that I'll be talking to you guys as if you were a new customer, okay? But the one that we usually do every 2 weeks is more catered to you, but this one is really good still. We're basically going to go over the same stuff, going through your settings. And so you're definitely welcome to stay. As you guys see, I'm very interactive on chat. I love to hear what you guys have to say. Post your questions in there. Post the topic that you're more, looking forward to during our session. And if we have time, hopefully, usually we get through all the questions at the very end there. So please don't hesitate to post in the chat whenever you want to. If you happen to see that I'm going too fast and you just need that one-on-one service, we are available to you guys Monday to Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific through our live chat. It's just on the bottom right corner of your Top Producer X. And if you don't need immediate help, maybe you just need a copy of your invoice, or maybe you just need the article on how to set up the calendar sync, for example, right? And you want to do it later. You can email us at support@topproducer.com. We usually get back to you within 24, 48 hours. And then if you need more urgent response, our live chat, our average response rate on live chat is within a minute. So we should be able to get to you right away, whatever you need. So today we're going to be going over how to log into your Top Producer X for the very first time, and some sales pipeline basics, basically some basics on how to organize your contacts. And then we're going to go over all the settings in your Top Producer X. And Marvin will be posting the step-by-step instructions on chat as I go through them. And then finally, we're going to go over something we call the follow-up coach that really makes sure that everybody in your database gets followed up with or at least reviewed. And so that nobody falls through the cracks, right? Getting right to it, the first thing we need to do is log in, right? If this is your very first time logging in, you should have gotten an email in your inbox. Sometimes it'll go to your spam, so just check that too. And the subject line will look like something like this: activate your new Top Producer account. And in that email will be your pre-generated username and password. And I will show you guys where to change your password if you don't like the one that we generated for you. I highly recommend you change your password once you get through the setup. That's definitely a good practice. Best practice when it comes to passwords and keeping your account secure is to changing the default one that we give you. So I'll show you guys where to do that. And then we're going to be talking about contact status and contact type. But I'll get back to that when we get to the live demo. I'm going to show you a live demo of it. So first thing we want to do is log in, right? So go ahead and if you haven't already, jump into your inbox, look for that email, so activate your new Top Producer account, copy paste those username and password, some are safe. And then once you're ready to log in, you just click on that button that says Get Started. The URL for the login page is also crm.topproducer.com. And if Marvin hasn't posted that yet, he will post the URL in there too. It's the same username and password if you're coming from our Top Producer 8i. And right there on the screen here on the login page, there's a forgot password link. So if you need to change your password, that's where you would go. You would log out and then put it in. So if it's your first time logging into the system, the first thing you'll see is something called the subscriber agreement. So have a look at that, and when you're ready, there should be a button on the bottom left corner that says I have read and accept the terms of this agreement. The biggest thing I want to highlight in the subscriber agreement, especially if you're a new user, is that it comes with a 1-year contract, but you have the first 30 days to kind of try it out. Hopefully your salesperson has told you about that 1-year contract, because obviously we don't want to, catch anyone by surprise. And then after that 1-year contract, it does just go on a month-to-month basis. So it's just that initial year, and that's really a good thing. It kind of forces you to build good habits when it comes to your follow-up, and you really got to commit to it for a whole year to kind of see the long-term benefits of it, right? We do have a lot of customers, long-time customers that's been with us for years and years and years. And it's just that initial 1 year that you just get to, make sure that you get everything set up the way you want it to, get into a good groove. And then after that, it just becomes second nature. So that's just the biggest thing on the subscriber agreement, is that it comes with an initial 1-year term. So when you're ready to continue, you just check the box on the bottom that says I have read and accept the terms of this agreement, and then you just hit next. All right, so once you get past that, then the next thing you're going to want to do is fill out your contact information, like your picture, your logo, all your phone numbers, your emails, your website, social media links, and so on. And the more you put in, the better, because a lot of the stuff that we use here, we have something called merge codes. And what merge codes means is that instead of having to type in your website all the time, like let's say you're putting it into your signature, you're putting it into an email, you don't have to keep manually typing the information is, because we have something called the merge code, where it automatically grabs that information from this My Information page that you're filling out right now. The other thing that's important here is on the bottom where it says location. Make sure that you set it to the right time zone, especially for your calendar, right? You don't want to be accidentally late for your appointment because you have the wrong time zone set up in your CRM. So make sure you set your location there on the bottom correctly. And then when you're done, you can just go ahead and hit save. Perfect. So the next thing after you put in your contact information, I know that's very quick, so I'll talk a little bit more to give you guys a little bit more time to catch up if in case you are filling out your contact information, and I will show you guys where to go back if you want to fill it out later. So if you don't want to rush and do it later, that's no problem too. The next thing after you put in your information, if it's your first time logging in, is it's going to ask you to put some contacts in there, right? You don't have any contacts in there, it's empty. So the system kind of forces you to put someone in there so that it could start being useful to you. So there's a couple of options: importing contacts or adding a contact. So import means that you're importing it from a spreadsheet, like a CSV file, or like a VCF file if you have it in your Mac address book. And basically you bring it from that spreadsheet and it'll automatically plug them into your top producer. There's a whole process to that, and we'll get back to it when we go through the settings. I'll show you a bit of a preview of how that works. And of course, Marvin's going to post the instructions once we get there, or when we get there to that part of the settings instructions. And then the other option is adding a contact. This is just to add someone in manually, one by one. And I will show you how to do that live. And you can either add in a real client if you want. Some people adapt to a new CRM better that way if they're actually using it for one of their clients and it forces them to pay attention. Or if you want to add yourself in to use for testing purposes, right? Maybe you don't want to accidentally send your real client an email that wasn't supposed to be sent yet. You might want to add yourself in first as a test contact record. So it's up to you guys how you want to do that, but I'm going to show you guys how to add a contact live here on the screen. All right, so I'm in my top Producer X here. I just want to quickly take a quick detour. So on the login page, that's the forgot password. It's just going to need your username and email, and it'll send you a password reset link in your email so you can change your password. Now, if you ever need to log out, if you look at the top right corner, it's got your picture there. If it's your first time, it might not have a picture yet. It's going to look like a silhouette of a person. So if you click on that little picture, there should be an option that says sign out. So that's how you sign out of your top Producer X. All right, so adding a contact. It's always going to be in your contacts page that you're in. On the top right corner, there's an add contact button. So you just click on that and just plug it in. So I'm going to put in my cat's name in here. By the way, any contacts that you see in my database, they're all make-believe. They're not real. So we're not, violating anyone's privacy here from this demo webinar that we're doing. But I'm going to put in a fake contact here just for demonstration purposes. So, I put in their name. If their primary contact method is mobile, I'll plug in their mobile number. If they primarily communicate through email, I would change that to email, right? So it's up to you how you guys want to put in the contact in here. If you're doing it for yourself, I'd probably set it to email and then put in your email address. Try to use a different email other than the one that you use for your business, because you don't want to send an email from the same email account to the same email account, because some email providers will see that as a suspicious activity and it might just block it, right? Or put it into spam. So if you want a real test that whenever you send out an email, is it working properly or not? Send it to your other email that you don't normally use. So if you don't already have a test email somewhere, just sign up for a free one, right? You can get a free one from Gmail, you can get a free one from Yahoo, Microsoft, and so on. So just for testing purposes, I would recommend doing that. But yeah, so I'm just gonna create a fake email here. This one doesn't actually exist, but I'm just going to type it in. All right, so when you're adding a contact or you're importing contacts, this is where we all need to pay attention when it comes to organizing contacts, okay? The two most important fields in Top Producer when it comes to your database are your contact status and your contact type. So when we're talking about the contact type, that is where you put in the category or the group. So you want to put all your buyers into the buyer category. You want to put all your sellers into the seller category, right? We have some in there already for you. So if you just type it in, it'll come up like buyer, for example, and you can add them into as many as you want, right? They can be part of multiple groups. If something doesn't already exist, let's say coffee addicts, right? You want to keep track of all your coffee aficionados, right? So you can see that it's not already in my list of contact types. Maybe I'll use that name, that word instead, aficionados. So if you want coffee people and you want to, keep track of them, maybe you can, do a raffle for a Starbucks gift card or something, and that'll, maybe that'll entice them to call you back or text you back, right? So you put them into that group, and if it doesn't already exist, you can add it to the list. So it's as easy as that. And notice that the bubbles here are like gray. I'm going to show you guys later to make it more colorful. So if certain things that you want to pop out, like let's say your buyer group, I put my buyer group as a color of gold. So it really pops up to me because I primarily cater to buyers, for example. That really helps with the visual aid, especially when I'm getting used to a new CRM like this, right? So if you want to pop out like all your coffee aficionados, right? Maybe you want a different color, like a cappuccino color or whatever, right? So I'm going to show you guys where to do that later. But contact type is basically your traditional grouping. And why do you want to use contact types? Because you want to cater to different target audiences when it comes to your marketing, right? When you send out an email to a buyer, the marketing that you use, the content that you use is going to be different from a seller, right? For a buyer, you might want to, send them an email about, how to pick the best mortgage broker or something like that, right? And then for a seller, you might want to, give them a checklist of how to properly stage or prepare your house for an open house, right? If you have a pet, maybe you want to make sure that, or you have pictures all over the place. Maybe you want to take down all those pictures, right? Stuff like that, right? So they're totally different marketing content for the different categories that you have. So that's why it's important to put people into the right contact types. Now with contact status, that one is a little bit more prescriptive. That one tells you if a contact is ready to go or not. So all these statuses is part of what we call the lead life cycle, where everybody starts as a totally new stranger to you, right? You've never talked to them before. You've never even sent them an email or left them a voicemail. Usually those contacts are automatically being fed into your Top Producer, like from a lead provider where you signed up with, for example, Zillow or Realtor.com, or maybe you get a free website lead, right? Online leads from your brokerage if you're part of one and stuff like that. So new is like people that you've never talked to before. And there's statistics out there that, when you get a new inquiry, you should respond to them right away within the next minute or so, right? The longer you wait, the more and more stale they become, the less likely you'll get them to respond to your phone call or to your message. So we have a dedicated status just for those people. We call it new, right? That's probably your most top priority, right? Everybody knows that it's more expensive to generate new leads when you compare it to generating leads from your past business, right? It's just in any business, right? Like even if you're hiring new employees, it's better to to keep the ones that you have instead of having to, invest into like going through the whole new hiring process, for example. So that's the new status. The next status is called engage. So you've sent out that initial email, you've left them a voicemail, they didn't answer, or if they did, they aren't sure yet, right? They haven't really given you indication yet whether they're ready or not. So engage is like the qualifying stage. This is where a lot of your leads would be, because you're trying to figure out if they're hot or they're cold, right? Are they a hot lead or a cold lead? So that would be the engage status. And then once you finally are able to make a decision whether they're a hot or a cold lead, then you would move them into either of these two statuses. So if it's a colder lead, like a looky-loo, or they say, try me again in 9 months, try me again in the summertime, right? Then you would set them to future. They're a future business lead, right? So you don't want to continue to try to contact them on a frequent basis, right? Because they're going to get annoyed of you. So you would put them into future, making sure that you're putting them more to the side so that you don't have to pay attention to them right now urgently. And then there's the active status. These are your hot leads. These are your active clients, your current clients. These are the people that you actually are under contract with. So you definitely make sure you need to pay attention to those ones. And then lastly, hopefully everything goes through and you close the deal, you make a sale, they go into close. So close is a really good source of business for you. If you're paying attention and you're updating your statuses all the time, you're maintaining it for each contact and putting them into close, then it's easier to market to those closed ones because you've already proven that you can successfully complete a deal with them, right? Because you were just part of a transaction with them a couple of years ago, right? So you need to make sure you keep track of your closed clients, and that's how you do it in Top Producer, is setting them into that contact status. And then lastly, the other two status, inactive, are like people that are absolutely not ready to go at any point in time, but there could still be an opportunity in the more long-term view. So these are people that you don't necessarily want to delete because maybe there's a chance a couple of years from now, right? So if you want to make sure that you're not targeting them when you're doing your regular marketing, put them into inactive. That way they're still in there. They're kind of like archived into your database. And then they'll, when they're ready to be processed through your usual sales pipeline, then you would change them back to whatever status there is, right? So they could be engaged again, right? Where you're trying to qualify, they're ready again, and then they could become an active lead or an active client. So inactive is for those contacts that you really don't want to make sure you really want to make sure that you don't market to. And then lastly, the status of non-client. So these are for your vendors. You want to make sure you keep track of them in your database. And you also want to make sure that you're not sending them any marketing, right? So if you have contacts on through the bank, like a mortgage broker, or maybe you have a really reliable plumber or repairman, handyman, right? So you want to put them into your database. They are not a client, so you're not going to try to sell them on anything. So you would set them as non-client. That way they're right at your fingertips whenever you need them to be contacted. So yeah, those are our two main fields in Top Producer. If you can take anything away from this this getting started show, it's those two fields, making sure that you get familiar with them right away. And then when you're ready, you just click on save. That's it. It's easy as that, adding a contact, and it'll open it up right away. All right, so I'm just going to quickly close this contact record here and take a quick pause, see if there's anything on chat. Looks like we're good on questions. All right, let's see here. Let's get back to our notes. So now that we took care of the first thing, logging in and talking about the contact statuses and contact types, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is going through all the settings in your Top Producer X. So we're going to go through a couple of important ones like the MLS connection and the email integration. So we're going to start with those two things, and then we'll work ourselves from top to bottom. This show is recorded, so if it's hard for you to pay attention to all those settings, don't worry, I'm not going to get offended if you want to take a quick glance at something else. But we're just going to go through a couple of really important settings, and then we'll go through the rest. So to get into your settings, it's just on the bottom left corner. Just click on settings. If you don't see it on the bottom left, that usually means you're zoomed in a little too much on your browser. So I'll show you guys what I mean here. If you go look on the bottom left corner, where you see settings, if my screen was zoomed in a little too much, it's going to look like that. I've had customers contact me before saying, hey, I don't see the settings button, right? Something must be wrong. And lo and behold, it's just because it's zoomed in too much. So all I tell them is just zoom out a little bit, and then you should start seeing it on the bottom left corner. On the rare occasion that you just really can't see it and you just don't have time to like play around with your zoom settings, the other way you can get into your settings is if you look on your top right corner, your picture. If you click on that, you'll see the menu, and the first menu item is settings. So there's a couple ways you can get into your settings just in case. Now, these are all the different settings tabs that we're going to go through. We're going to go through a couple here to start with. So the first one I want you guys to start with is your MLS credentials. So if you haven't already, go to your settings, go to your MLS credentials, click on the button that says add MLS credentials on the top right corner, and go ahead and look for your board. So like, for example, here in Vancouver, if I just start typing in Vancouver, I don't even need to spell the whole thing. It'll start suggesting based on what I typed in. So like if let's say you're in San Diego, even if you just start Sandy, it starts popping up. Let's say you're in Bright MLS, it starts popping up. Garden State. So all your popular MLS boards should be there. We've got connections with pretty much all the MLS boards out there. And depending on what your board is, it's going to ask you for even just like an ID, for example. As you see here for Vancouver, it's not asking me for my MLS password. It's just my MLS ID that I need. But some MLS board that do require the whole shebang, the whole username and password. If you have trouble with it, try putting it all in capitals. Sometimes that works for whatever reason. Your MLS board requires you to put it all in capitals when you're connecting it through a third-party company like us, even though it's the same credentials. Sometimes all caps works, sometimes all lowercase works. If it's still not working, don't worry. We're here to help you. Just take a quick detour. Just click on the little X to close that for a moment, and then hit the chat button. And we've got a working spreadsheet with all the MLS board, and that tells us usually what the requirements are when you're putting the credentials in for your particular board. So yeah, if you can't log in with your MLS credentials, just chat with us and we'll get you unstuck quickly there. Sometimes it requires a paperwork or something like that. So if it doesn't work right away, chat with us. All right, so the next tab in your settings page I want to go through is the email integration. So setting up your email in Top Producer is kind of a requirement if you want to send out emails. It won't let you send out emails unless you set it up here. The reason for that is because when you send out an email from your Top Producer X, it's not actually using the Top Producer email servers to send it out. So that's kind of a technical thing. Don't worry if you don't know what that means. All it means is when you send out an email from Top Producer X, it's going to look like it's coming from your actual email account. It's not going to look like it's coming from Top Producer. So if, for example, you have a Gmail account, like the example you see here, it's going to look like it's coming directly from your Gmail account. And to prove that, if you ever set it up, like let's say with a Gmail account and you send out an email to one of your test contacts for yourself, if you look on your phone, the same email that you've set up on your phone, you can see the actual sent item on your phone too, even though you didn't use your phone to send that email. That's because it's all connected to the same email account. It's going through your Gmail account in this example. Same thing with an iPhone. If you have an iPhone, it's going to look like it's coming from your iCloud account. Now, if you're one of our 8i users, an advantage to using the email on Top Producer X compared to our previous version is that it's more reliable because it's sending it from your own email account instead of the older way where it's sending it through the Top Producer mail server. You're less likely to end up in somebody's spam or junk folder because it's not using what they call email spoofing, which is what we use in 8i. It kind of looks like it's coming from Gmail, but it's actually not. It's coming from Top Producer. And a lot of email providers can detect that nowadays, and they're a lot more sensitive to that because unfortunately, there's people that have taken advantage of that and sent spam that way, right? It's not actually coming from the source. It's coming from this different email. So yeah, make sure all you have to do to set it up is put in your email address, click on authorize. It's going to ask you to log into whatever email account you've set up, and it's going to ask you to give it some permissions. So let me try an example here. So this could be your iCloud account, your Outlook account, your Yahoo account, whatever it is. You just plug in that email, hit authorize. It's going to automatically detect who your email provider is and then ask you to sign in. Once it asks you to sign in, let me see if I can get in there, if I remember my own password. Might not remember the password to this one. Let's see. Uh-oh. I forgot my password to that one. Let's try a different one. Let's go with that one. Okay, so with whatever email account you have set up, if you want it to work, make sure you check all the boxes when it's asking you, hey, are you sure you want to give Top Producer access to your email account, right? As you see here, mine weren't checked, these two boxes here. If I just hit continue, it's going to just finish the setup, but it's actually not going to work properly because it needs access to all of this content here or this data for the email integration to work. So just make sure you're paying attention for any check boxes. Sometimes it won't give you any check boxes, and that's good. That means it's all checked basically. But if you do see any empty boxes, check them all off and then hit continue. Once you're done that, I'm just going to press cancel on that. Going to go back to my settings page. Once you hit continue and you've checked all the boxes, then it'll just take you back to your email integration page. And this is what it's going to look like once it's finished. And you can add in as many email accounts that you have. Maybe you have multiple business email accounts that you operate or do you manage. You can put all of them in. So this is especially useful if you have an assistant. Maybe you want them to be able to send emails from their own login. If you purchase more than one CRM license with us, they can have their own login, but you can set up your email in their account. That way they can send out emails so it looks like it's coming from you. So that's one use case for having multiple emails in here. And you can have as many as you want. One thing to keep in mind, if you have a lot of emails in your account that you're setting up, it could take maybe more than a few minutes because it has to do an initial sync to kind of go through all the emails in your account, right? All the data, all the attachments, all the pictures, and so on. So it might not take it, it might not stay running right away. I would just kind of check back on it. If it doesn't say running after, let's say 5 minutes, not to worry, just check back on it like the next day. Maybe wait a little longer than 24 hours. and it should automatically update itself to running. So whatever status it says, it might say like needs reauthorization or initializing or anything like that. If it doesn't say running, just leave it alone for the next 24 hours and it'll update itself to running. If it's still not running after 24 hours, just hit the chat button. Try not to fix it yourself because you might just, wait another 24 hours and start over again at waiting. So just hit the chat button if it's not working after 24 hours. So yeah, those are the two most important settings pages that I want to make sure we cover. And then the rest, I'm just going to go through with you guys. Right, so it looks like we have no questions yet. That's good. Next thing I want to go over is the top one where it says my information. So again, earlier, if you didn't have time to fill it out, this is how you put it in. So you go to settings, my information, and let's say you found your company logo finally on your computer, right? You can just go back in here and put it in. And when you're done, you just hit save. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. The next thing I want to talk about is your calendar and your contacts sync. So what this means is you can sync the same appointments that you have on your phone, the same contacts that you have on your phone with Top Producer. So that really helps with making sure that you don't have duplicate contacts. You're not having to manage two different databases for your business, right? Once you connect them together, it updates both of them at the same time on its own automatically, right? So whenever you need to schedule an appointment, maybe you need to cancel an appointment or reschedule it, right? Even if you're doing it from your phone, it'll automatically sync it to your Top Producer and vice versa. Let's say, you just don't have time, you don't know how to do it on your phone or something, and you just call up your assistant or tell your assistant, hey, can you schedule an appointment for me and buyer 1 and buyer 2 for tomorrow at 3 o'clock, right? You just tell them to do that. So they can go in here, log into your Top Producer and put that in for you, and then it'll sync to your phone. Same thing with your contacts. Whenever you add a contact on your phone, right? Especially if you're new to Top Producer, you just don't have time to learn how to, add a contact. You forgot where to go to add a contact into your Top Producer. You're basically using Top Producer without using Top Producer if you set up these syncs, because when you add a contact on your phone, because you have it synced to the same account with Top Producer, it'll add that contact into your Top Producer. So if you need to make a change to that contact, maybe they gave you a second phone number, a second email, or maybe you just misspelled their name, right? If you update that into your phone, it'll update it in Top Producer too, automatically, and vice versa. So it's the same process as the email integration, really. You just plug in the email account that you have set up on your phone, and then you check all the boxes for all the permissions. Once you give it all the permissions that it needs, you just hit continue, and then that's it. It'll just start working, right? If you do have a lot of contacts or a lot of appointments, same condition as the email integration. It might take a few minutes or a few hours, or maybe even a couple of days or so, especially if you have like thousands and thousands of contacts. It's not going to be immediate, right? It needs time to kind of sync everything at least initially. So yeah, same setup as email integration. I'm not gonna go through the same process again because just to save us some time, right? And Marvin has shared some instructions on the chat too, if you want more step-by-step instructions on calendar sync and contact sync. But definitely recommend setting those up because it'll just make your life easier. Next is importing contacts. So if you have a spreadsheet, maybe you're moving to Top Producer from a different CRM, right? We've had people leave and come back, and then they have their CSV file. This is how they would plug it in. Is they go to import contacts, and then they just find that file from their computer. Okay. Let's see, there we go. And then the next step, once you select that file from your computer, is what we call field mapping. So, well, first of all, let's put in the right status and contact types, right? So are all these contacts you're importing from spreadsheet, are they all new? Are they all in future? If they're a mix, you can either select future and just like, you know, if you don't want to bother them by accident, that's kind of like the safest status to put it in, right? Is future, and then you can just go through each one individually and update them to a different status. But if you know, a majority of them you want to try to qualify, another option is setting them to engage. So if you don't know which one to use, either those two would work probably for you. Next is contact type. So if these are all buyers, put them in the buyers list. If they're all, you know, sphere of influence, put them in the sphere of influence. If they're all coffee aficionados, put them all to the coffee aficionados, right? So you can put them all into as many as you want. Buyer, sphere, for example, coffee, right? You can put in as many as you want, and you can put in your own. And actually I like as a recommendation, whenever you're importing contacts, I like actually creating one called import and then the date that I imported them. The reason why I like doing this, and this is more of a pro tip, the reason why I like doing this is, let's say I made a mistake in the import, right? And I didn't realize it until days or weeks later. And I need to delete them and start over again, right? Just for that spreadsheet. If I didn't put it into this dedicated contact type, it might be more difficult for me to distinguish the contacts that I've imported into my buyers list, right? Because I might have other buyers in my database. So if I search for all my buyers, all these contacts that I imported will be part of it, but also are all the contacts that already existed that are not in this import. So that's why I recommend putting in a contact type, the word import, and then whatever date that you imported it on, just in case you need to go back to that import and search for all those contacts you've imported. All right, the next thing you're going to want to do is in your spreadsheet, it's got a column header for each column. So from left to right, those are all columns. And each one will have a label or a header at the top that tells you what's underneath each of those columns, right? So in my spreadsheet, I have a column called given name. And as you can see from the samples that it shows here from my spreadsheet, these all look like first names. Right? So what I have to do for each column is match it to the one that Top Producer uses. So we don't have a column called given name, but we do have a column called first name, and they're the same thing, right? So that's what you're basically doing here, is playing a matching game from your spreadsheet, matching it to the one that Top Producer uses. So we don't use surname, but we use last name. So I would plug that in. Sometimes the system, like you see here, will automatically map it, right? Because they're commonly used labels, right? Surname means last name for, you know, 99% of people, right? That means last name. So it'll automatically link some of them, but you still want to pay attention and double check that it's doing it correctly, whatever automated system it's doing, right? Sometimes, you know, depending on what's in your spreadsheet, instead of city, maybe it mapped it to, I don't know, a web address or whatever, right? So just pay attention to what it's mapping to and correct it if you need to. Now, if there's a column in your spreadsheet that you don't want at all, let's say I don't need to import my telephone numbers for this spreadsheet, you can just select not mapped and it'll ignore that column and move on to the next column in your spreadsheet. If there's one in your spreadsheet that we don't have any matching column for, right, and you really want to import it in there, and there's no matching one, you can just select add to contact notes, right? So if you were tracking like from your CRM that you used before, or maybe you were just using a spreadsheet manually, if you were tracking a column with all their pet names, right? what kind of pets they have, right? And you really want to make sure you put it into top producer, put it into that, match it to the one that says add to contact notes. So at least it'll be imported. And when you're ready, you just hit import, and that's pretty much it. So hopefully that little walkthrough of importing contacts was easy enough. Otherwise, Marvin has a video of how to do it too, and some instructions. Just check out the chat. All right, skipping over to the tab called email signature. So once you've set up your email, you got to set up an email signature, right? It's just your standard signature creation page. So let's say this one, I haven't set up a signature yet. I just hit the little pencil icon on the right, and I just start creating my signature. So then the realtor, right? So whatever you want. And if you have a merge code, let's say you want to put in your website, right? You already saved that in your My Information page in your settings. You don't want to have to manually type it in and, you know, potentially cause a typo that will take people to the wrong website. I can just hit this button on the bottom right corner. This is called the template button. Let me just try that again here so you guys can see. So this template button, you just click on that. It'll give you a list of all the possible merge codes that you can use. So in this example, I want to put in my website automatically because it's a very long website URL and I don't want to make a typo, right? So watch what happens if I click on that merge code, and you can see here, this blue bubble, it'll automatically fill it in for us with my website that I've saved earlier. There we go. Very easy. So definitely take a look at all these buttons here when you're creating your signature to, you know, format it the way you want to format it, right? If you already have a signature somewhere like your Outlook or your Gmail or whatever, you can try copy pasting in. Just keep in mind that it might not copy paste all the formatting that you did in that other email program. So you might have to adjust it a little bit further if it doesn't look exactly the same as what you had before. So use all these buttons at the top, at the bottom here, to try to you know, mimic the way your other email program uses your signature. And when you're done, you just hit save, and that's pretty much it. The next tab we want to talk about is the lead providers page. So if you have leads coming in from online, let's say you usually get an email notification saying, hey, John Smith just went on Zillow and looked at this property that you're listed. They want more information about it, right? So usually you would get that email notification in your regular email, but if you want to go to your top producer automatically, so you don't have to manually type them in, all you have to do is make a little change to your lead provider settings page. You want to copy this email address that we've given you, and instead of it sending to your regular email, go into your notification settings for that lead provider and set it so that it goes to this email address. This is a special email address where it reads everything in the email body. And if it if it notices there's a lead name in there, lead contact information, lead notes, it'll automatically create that contact record inside of your top producer. Most lead providers also allow you to send it to multiple email addresses. So you can send it here to top producer and you can still get that notification in your regular email. Yeah, so very easy. You just plug that in. And why would you want to put your email into your leads into top producer? Well, of course, you want to make sure all your contacts are in one place, right? Your leads. The other benefit is that we have something called the automated lead response, where if you get an online lead, we know that they can be a hit and miss. And the biggest challenge is getting them to respond to you, right? Now, with most lead providers, they usually have a feature where it'll automatically send a text or send them an email to say, hey, thanks for your inquiry. I'll get back to you right away, right? So usually most of them give you that feature. But what Top Producer X does on top of that is you can set up what we call an automated lead response plan where not only will it send that initial response, but you can set up that plan to send another text 30 minutes later, another email 2 hours later, right? So that you have that persistence. Sometimes it takes like 8, 9, 10 messages before a lead finally pays attention and has time to reach out to you, right? Because if you just rely on that initial one, let's say they were doing it at work, right? And they filled out the form on Zillow or Realtor.com. They want more information about that one. And the automated email comes in right away to their phone, right? Well, they're not checking their phone. They're probably on their work computer, right? And then after work, they might have forgotten already about it, right? And it's just, lost in their spam folder, right? With the automated lead response plan, you can set it up so that they get a text right away, but they also get a text 8 hours later, right? Or 12 hours later, whatever you want. And you can do it over multiple days too. So you can have like 3 text messages and emails on the first day, maybe just a couple on the second day, and maybe just one final one on the 5th day, right? Whatever you think works for you, because you can customize this automated lead response plan to however you like. As soon as they respond to any of those messages that's automated, it'll stop. So if they respond on your day 2 text message, it'll cancel the one for day 5, day 10, day 20. It won't keep trying to convince them to reply because it's already done its job. It got them to reply to your message. And that's when you can take over and give them that personal touch, right? So that one is, I think, a game changer for if you set up online or you handle online leads. That's definitely one new feature that we added to Top Producer X. It's not available in our previous version. That's the one feature I highly recommend everyone to try out if you get online leads. And Marvin did post an article on the lead response plan if you want to know how to set that up. If you want me to go over it, we do go over it on our Thursday show. So today we're all about setting up your Top Producer X. That one is more of an advanced feature, right? I want you guys to kind of get your feet wet over the next couple of days after this webinar. Try it out, put your contacts in there. And then on Thursday, join us for our next webinar. And if you want me to talk about the lead response plan, we'll have more time there to do that. We call it the 4 things you want to know after you've set up Top Producer X. And we've timed it for the next couple of days. So today's Tuesday, that one's on Thursday, to give you time to get familiar with your new CRM. And when you're ready, we'll go over that kind of topic on our Thursday show. I'll show you guys where to sign up for those webinars a little later. The next tab I want to talk about in your settings is the Market Snapshot tab. So these are for you guys that purchase the additional Market Snapshot add-on. So Market Snapshot, if the salesperson didn't already go over it, it basically gives you some data to back up your sales pitch, right? Whenever realtors send out emails to their clients, usually it's just a standard, hey, how you doing? Or like, Merry Christmas, or Happy Thanksgiving, Happy 4th of July, here's a recipe, blah, 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 right? With Market Snapshot, you're actually giving them some, at least in my opinion, some real value when it comes to what you want them to do to buy or sell properties. And Market Snapshot gives them a personalized custom report that they get on a regular basis. So they get it every couple of weeks, for example, if they're more of a active lead, or you can even set it to every week if they're really, really into it. Or maybe they're a looky-loo and, they're like, yeah, you can just send me stuff if you want, but I'm not ready until summer, right? You can set them up on a quarterly Market Snapshot, or even a yearly Market Snapshot if you really want to try to stay on top of their minds, but also not bother them more than once a year, right? So market snapshot, let me just show you guys a quick preview here. This is what it looks like, sort of like an IDX, but a little bit better because it's customized to that person. It's got all your branding in there. So instead of it showing like Zillow or Realtor.com, where most people sign up for like these reports, it looks like it's coming from you directly. You prepared this report just for them. And on your side, it takes a little effort, not too much. Once it's set up, it just keeps sending it to them automatically using the connection to your MLS board. This is also good not just to get new leads and convert them. This is also good for your current clients, your active listings and closings, because it helps you with that conversation, making them more knowledgeable about the whole process. So if you have a seller, for example, and they sort of have an unrealistic expectation of what their house is going to sell for, maybe they're trying to, they really think their house is worth 2 million, for example, right? Well, you can send them a market snapshot that has comparable properties to what they're trying to sell, what they think is worth 2 million. And as you can see here in this example, the average asking price is 984,000. So it helps you with that conversation. You can say, hey, Mr. Smith or Mrs. Sally, I know you really want to sell it for 2 million. You think it's worth it at 2 million. And you know what? That would benefit me too if, with my commission, right? If I can sell it for 2 million. But I just want to make sure I set proper expectations with you. As you can see here in this report with all the comparable properties, average asking price is 984,000. So you can see how much more powerful that conversation is when you have something like a market snapshot to back it up, right? Instead of just trying to convince them with your words, you can actually, they can do it while you're talking and go through all the comparable properties and say, okay, yeah, what you're saying is making sense. I can see that they're 984,000. So I can't expect 2 million. Maybe you guys can compromise and, start the selling price or the listing price at, 1.1 million or something, right? If you really want to compromise with them and they think it's 2 million, then you can, say it like, oh, maybe we can start a bidding war and, maybe we can get to 2 million, right? But let's make it more approachable at 1.1 instead of going straight to 2 million. So that's just an example scenario with the market snapshot that not only am I bringing up because it sounds good, but I've seen happen. A realtor has actually told me that's how they use it sometimes, is to just, to put it nicely, to set the proper expectation with their seller that's really pushing to sell their place at a ridiculous price, for example. All right, so going back to the market snapshot settings, if you have market snapshot, just leave it the way it is to start with. All the default settings are good the way they are. So just keep it the way it is. I wouldn't change it or anything like that. If you start getting more familiar market snapshot and you want to start playing around with how the market snapshot works, you can go back to the settings and then go to market snapshot and start toggling things on and off if you want to, right? But for now, I don't want to put too much data information in your brains for now. We got still a lot of stuff to go through. So just for this one, if you're a market snapshot user, just leave it the way it is. 99% of the people that use market snapshot never touch these settings, and they're getting good results from it. Cool. The next tab is called the team management settings. So this is for those of you that did purchase more than one CRM license, and this is where you can create their usernames, put in their name for them, and most importantly, this is where you can set up their permissions on how they manage the data in your database, your shared database. So if you're more of a competitive office, maybe you don't want people to see each other's contacts, right? You only want them to see their contacts, so you can turn that off. If you have one or more people in your team that are accident prone when it comes to data, or they're not very tech savvy, and you're concerned that they might, delete data by accident, you can turn off that permission for their login if you want to. And then again, going back to the example of a more competitive environment, maybe you're worried that they're gonna take your contacts and put it somewhere else. You can turn off the option for them to export your contacts from the database. So this page is more pertaining to those of you that have purchased multiple licenses. Obviously, there is advantage to having more than one license because you can assign each other tasks, you can see each other's calendar, you can assign leads to each other, and so on. So there's a lot of benefits. If you don't already have more than one license and you're interested in that, just let us know in the chat and we'll have someone go through your requirements as far as the team goes, what you need it to work, and if it's going to work for you or not to purchase additional licenses. Just let us know in the chat. Okay, so the next tab is called texting. I'm not actually going to show you that tab because it's got my real phone number in there. But all it is, if I go to texting tab, it basically lets you put in your cell phone number, and then you hit authorize. It'll send you a text message and you have to reply to that text message with the word confirm. And that's it. That's how you set up the texting feature. And what that's going to allow you to do is be able to send text messages from your top producer instead of doing it from your phone, your tiny screen, where if you're like me, where you make a lot of typos on your smartphone because it's too small. Set up the texting in top producer. You've got your full keyboard on your laptop or on your desktop PC, where you're more comfortable typing in that message. And because you're sending the text message from your top producer, you have all this information at your fingertips, so you can do a better job of sending that text message. So if, let's say I wanted to try to connect with Roger through text, right? And I really want to convince him that I'm approachable and, he'll like me because I know things about him that maybe realtors take for granted, right? Maybe the first time I met him, he told me that he was into sports, right? He was into tennis and all that stuff, right? Or maybe he is into football, right? So if I was just using my texting app on my phone, I wouldn't be able to go through his contact record and see that he has a contact up with sports fans, see that he's a buyer, right? And if I track that he has a spouse, Sally right here, right? I wouldn't have known that if I was just doing it through my texting app. You have all this information for you before you send out the text message. And then once you're ready, you just click on send. And then you just start typing it in, right? And to kick it up a notch, you can even use some pre-made templates that you've saved already. So if you click on this template button here, let's say I want to use this Happy New Year that I created already before, right? You can do that. You don't have to manually type it in every time you want to reuse the same text message. You can just hit the template button and plug that in. Again, another encouragement for you guys to join our Thursday show, because that's where we're going to go over how to create templates, how to create action plans and multiple messages at the same time. We're going to go over that on our Thursday show. So today is just all about setting it up. If you're interested in learning more on how to do those things, definitely recommend you to join us on our Thursday show. I do appreciate you guys staying with me. We are 4 minutes over, so I apologize for that. The last thing I want to go over is the UI settings in here. And this is where you can add in a little bit more color to your system, right? So we did have that buyer that was like a yellow gold. But let's say I want to look for my coffee aficionados and I want it to be like a brown color, right? And none of these are kind of brown enough to me. So I can even go to this customize color button and see if there's a brown one that I can use. Yeah, like, there you go. That's good. I like that one. Save color. So now anytime I look for any coffee aficionados, I can do that. So I'm going to all, right? And just scrolling through, I'm just doing my usual, follow up, and then, oh, look, there's a contact in here, coffee aficionados, right? So now I can go to that person. It visually gave me that indicator. There's this special contact type that I'm looking for, and then I can say, hey, you want a random draw for people to get a Starbucks gift card, right? I'm just going over my database, and you want this random draw that I do every week, right? Here it is, right? Let me know if you if you're interested in talking about real estate, right? So that's one way these UI settings can be really helpful for, is coloring those contact types that you have. And that's it for the settings. Let's go back to our notes here. And then if you have any final questions, post it in the chat. We're just about to wrap up. The last thing I want to talk about is something called the follow-up coach. So if you put in all your contacts into your database, you're using it every day, you're putting people into the right categories, the right contact type, you're putting them into the right contact status, and you're doing your best, right? Sometimes, contacts just fall through the cracks, right? You don't realize that contact that you had in your 10,000 list hasn't been talked to, right? It just happens, right? You can't be all over the place all at the same time, right? So if you have a lot of contacts, it'll happen where you just don't realize you haven't talked to your contacts in a long time. This is where the follow-up coach comes into play. It basically looks for contacts that you haven't talked to in a while and gives you 5 of them at once, so that it forces you to kind of go through and say, okay, I've talked to this person already, I can just skip this person. Oh yeah, no, I haven't talked to Jim in a while, right? I'm gonna go ahead and call them, right? So you wouldn't have known these 5 people haven't been talked to if it didn't bubble it up to you. So that's what the follow-up coach does, is it kind of makes sure that it has your back, so that so that nobody in your database falls through the cracks. So if I go to my contacts and click on the follow-up coach here, right away, I've got 5 people that I can talk to. Maybe you are waiting for maybe you're going to an appointment, right? A viewing, and you're waiting for your seller your buyer to show up so you guys can go in and go through the open house together, right? And they said, oh yeah, I'm gonna be like 30 minutes late, I'm stuck in traffic, right? So you're sitting in your car, you can pull up your laptop, bring up Top Producer, and then just go through your follow-up coach and say, hey, I got like 30 minutes to spare, I'm gonna call all 5 of these people right now, right? So that's another way to take advantage of a CRM like this, like Top Producer, is it lets you kind of it lets you go through your database regardless of how you do your business, right? It just bubbles them up. And if you want to skip someone and say, yeah, no, I don't want to talk to Eddie right now, I'm putting him to the back of the list, right? And for Latoya, oh, actually, you know what, Latoya, I've already talked to Latoya. I'm putting her house for sale already, so she's not engaged anymore, she's actually active. So that one's done, right? You don't even need to actually call them if you need to, right? So let's say, oh yeah, no, I did talk to her a couple of hours ago, and like I said, she's ready to go, right? Talk to her at 9 a.m. today, ready to list. Meeting her at her place on Saturday, 12. What is Saturday here? 24 at noon. Right. So I'm scheduling a follow-up appointment. Listing requirements. So Saturday, 12. There you go. Bring coffee donuts. Oh, must be doing something wrong. Anyways, so once you're done that, that follow-up, you just go through your 5, and then eventually you're done all 5 of them, right? And if you want to do 5 more, no problem. You just hit refresh this, and it'll give you another 5. So it's giving you like a bite-sized portion of your database, especially if you have 1,000, like thousands of contacts. So it's not overwhelming. So, maybe you have an assistant that's saying, oh, I finished all my tasks, and, I don't know what to do next, right? Well, you can tell them, go to the follow-up coach and, deal with those 5 people that it shows on the screen, right? Whether setting them up on an automated plan, or send them a text to say, contact me, blah, 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 right? So that's another great way to use the follow-up coach, is to keep you productive. All right. So thank you guys for going through the settings with me and all the getting started tips and tricks. I want to talk about our next coming webinar. So let me show you our campus website. So that's the next thing you want to do as a new user, is making sure that you know where to go to find more help. If you go to the top right corner where you got your picture, you can select support site. It'll take you to our campus website, or you can go to it directly. If you want to bookmark it, it's support.topproducer.com. We've got videos in there, how-to guides. And if you like these webinars, go to the top right corner and click on webinar schedule. And today's, for example, the 20th. So the next one is on Thursday. So go ahead, sign up for our Thursday show, and I'll see you guys again on that one. But that's how you sign up for our webinars, is through our campus site. We also have a blog, topproducer.com blog. So Christine, our social media manager, she posts some really good real estate tips and tricks in there. So not only is it showing you things about Top Producer, she'll also post things like, last minute holiday gift ideas for your clients to convert them, right? Or here's some other tools that you can use to do your cold calling, for example, right? So check out that blog if you're looking for more tips on real estate in general. And for this webinar and all of our webinars, we record them. They're all available on our YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com/topproducersoftware. If you want to talk to other realtor users that use Top Producer, and maybe you want to, share ideas or ask for ideas, you can join our Facebook user group, which is just on the screen, facebook.com/groups/topproducersoftware. And like I've said earlier, if you need to talk to us on a one-on-one basis, you can hit up us on chat or send us an email. We'd love to get you going here. But let me go through our chat here to see if we have any final questions. Looks like we're good. So appreciate you guys joining me today. I'm your host, Dan Salcedo. Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Marvin, for helping me out here. And hopefully you guys have a happy holidays, and we'll see you on Thursday, maybe. Otherwise, have a great end of the year, and see you guys in 2023 and beyond. Have a good one.